Freedom's greetings, Helldivers. Erevan here with a breakdown for the GP-31 Ultimatum and Helldivers 2. This new sidearm is the most ridiculous weapon concept we have ever seen, and it's quickly becoming a fan favorite for Helldivers across the galaxy. But how good is it really? We're going to be looking at its target effectiveness, full statistical breakdown, and firepower to find out. First, let's talk about ammo. The Ultimatum has but one singular spare shell and comes with one shell loaded, only capable of restoring one shell when receiving ammo at a time, making it easily the most ammo hungry weapon in the entire game. So it's important to really make the shots count with this thing, but I also do want to point out that the Siege Ready armor passive is a huge buff for this weapon, providing it with a much needed extra shell slot. Although wearing this armor does not increase the ammo regained from supply crates. Besides that, also not a bad idea to run the supply backpack alongside this thing just to get a few extra shots out of it in between resupplies and rearms. And just so we can get the biggest downsides of this weapon out of the way first, so we can focus on what makes it incredible, the Ultimatum, as per its description, does have extremely heavy projectile drop. When firing from a standing position and firing at an arc through the air, any target beyond about 40 to 45 or so meters will basically be out of your reach, and when diving, any target beyond 50 meters will pretty much be completely unreachable unless you are at an uphill advantage. The heavy projectile drop and slow muzzle velocity can also make it particularly difficult to hit distant or moving targets. So, this weapon will require a bit of practice before you start to get used to it and begin landing your shots. So, those are the cons to the ultimatum, but now we're getting into what makes this thing so ridiculous. Besides the muzzle velocity and projectile drop of this weapon, for all intents and purposes, this weapon is literally a pocket orbital precision strike, dealing the exact same damage of 3,500 projectile and durable damage with 1,000 explosive damage, and the exact same armor penetration levels of 8 on the projectile portion and 6 on the explosive damage. For context, this is more damage than a recoilless rifle deals, and that's a support weapon. This is a sidearm. So, yeah, the damage is completely insane, and the explosive radius is pretty large as well, dealing the full 1,000 explosive damage within the 4-meter inner radius, while dealing gradually less damage out to its maximum explosive radius of about 12 meters, where it becomes zero. And even beyond that, it's going to inflict some extremely high knockback and staggering force to anything out to around 18 to 20 meters around the blast. Keep in mind, though, despite the absurdity of the Davy Crockett launcher's damage, the vast majority of that damage is dealt strangely by the direct impact of the projectile itself. If you fail to connect the projectile with the target, you're missing out on 3,500 of the 4,500 total damage, greatly reducing its capability to deal with tankier foes, doubling down on why it's going to be really important to get some practice in with this weapon when it comes to landing your shots. But if I'm being honest, the damage isn't even what I would say is the most impressive part about this thing, if you can believe that. No, what's far more ridiculous, in my opinion, is its 50 demolition force. Demolition force being the statistic that basically determines what enemy buildings the weapon can or cannot destroy. 50 fitting the bill for destroying literally every single structure in the game that doesn't require a hell bomb to destroy. This means this thing one shots targets such as bot fabricators, illegal research labs, jammers, detector towers, and warp ships. So, yeah, we're now living in a world where a sidearm can trivialize automaton jammers. How crazy is that? And how much crazier is it that this thing is doing it, but weapons like the recoilless launcher and the spear are not? What? And although the automaton bunkers are not destructible through demolition force, The raw damage of the Master Blaster can actually two-shot these things anyway, all the same. But when it comes to what targets you can decimate with this new sidearm, it can, under the right circumstances, one-shot every enemy in the game, functioning almost like a delete button in a similar fashion to how the recoilless rifle is regarded. When it comes to groups of any medium or smaller threats across all three factions, it will slap them all down in a single blast. Although that's likely not where you want to be spending your precious ammunition, I imagine. For larger threats like the Hulk, a direct hit sends them straight to the scrap heap. But the explosive damage alone isn't going to be enough, so make sure you're hitting those direct hits with the projectile, otherwise, you're going to be pretty disappointed in the results. Factory Striders are most often going to be destroyed by hitting two headshots with the ultimatum, making it a less than ideal choice, in my opinion. But if for whatever reason you manage to get the angle on the belly rub, the pocket rocket is able to put Fido down in just one strike. Chargers and Impalers get completely deleted by the ultimatum, no questions asked upon a direct hit. While the Bile Titans are a bit finicky. If you manage to hit a headshot on a Bile Titan, it's going to go down every time. If you hit the tail, it's lights out. But if you hit the body or stomach region, it can actually potentially survive if the explosive damage doesn't manage to hit enough individual parts of the body to overflow its maximum health pool. But as long as you land a clean center mass shot, the ultimatum is capable of sweeping up every heavy in the faction. I mean, who needs commando rockets or eats anyway when I've got a sidearm that can do it? Just some crazy stuff. And when it comes to the Illuminates, they are for sure lacking in units. But funny enough, I would say the design of the Harvester actually gives this weapon the most trouble. The shield can block the blast entirely, so you need to knock that down first with your primary weapon, or catch it by surprise while the shield is down. And then it's going to be possible for it to survive a direct hit to the head sometimes due to the nature of illuminate armor soaking the brunt of any one individual ballistic hit. Instead, the for sure kill is to hit a direct hit on one of the legs or on the feet of the walker, which will blow the legs out from under it, KOing the target. But unlike the other factions, I can actually think of a lot more convenient ways to deal with a harvester than using the ultimatum, which is still not saying a whole lot because we're still talking about a sidearm that's swinging meat like it's closer to a support weapon when weighing in. And even if you don't end up using the ultimatum as your main harvester answer, it's still going to be one shotting those warp ships for you, so plenty of utility there. Well, that was short, sweet, and to the point. That concludes my evaluation of the new GP-31 Ultimatum, as well as all its statistics and qualifications. This sidearm is unironically one of the most pound for pound powerful weapons in the entire game when talking about raw firepower, which is kind of insane, and I think the Commando might actually need to start stepping its game up to compensate. And although it does have its fair share of drawbacks, this sidearm is likely to find long standing homes in the loadouts of a vast quantity of our Helldivers across the galaxy. Thank you to my coffee supporters who help keep the channel going, and thank you for watching till the end. I'll see you next time. Wait, I just realized something.